Well, everybody, it's that time of year again. The time of eggnog, presents, TV, Christmas specials, and in the YouTube game, lists. Yes, it seems everyone starts writing their biggest lists in December, I assume both for Santa and for Theme Park Tube, and since I am nothing if not a follower of trends, here I am with my own list, my top 25 coasters in the world 2021 edition. I was extremely fortunate to add a ton of new credits in 2021, which is pretty impressive considering there was/is still a global pandemic to worry about. And in addition to that, I moved halfway across the globe to Busan, South Korea. Nevertheless, 2021 might have just been my best year for coasters yet, as I was able to cross off some big bucket list theme parks and continue to bolster my credit count. While there's still some big parts of the world yet unexplored by us, I'm looking at you, Japan, please open up, please, in the west coast of the United States. In addition to that, I think my top 25, as it stands, says a lot about what I value in a good coaster. Fantastic theming, attention to detail, and remarkable thrill. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Starting it off at number 25, it's Apollo's Chariot, a B&M hypercoaster at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. Apollo's Chariot is the first B&M hyper ever made. It's the first hyper I ever rode, and in my opinion, it's still one of the best. For whatever reason, the butterflies in your stomach sensation that comes from great airtime just seems to hit a little bit harder on Apollo's Chariot. That outstanding airtime paired with the storied history of the ride, both for B&M and for myself personally, makes it a mandatory inclusion on this list. On to number 24, Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster, a Rocky Mountain Construction single rail at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. This was the first single rail coaster I ever rode, and it's honestly just as fun to watch as it is to ride. Although the restraints are a little wonky, the speed at which this thing tears through its layout is something beautiful to behold and experience. Plus, as far as DC theming goes, this one actually kind of seems to fit pretty well. I really need to ride some of the other single rails out there to see how it compares, but for now, Golden Lasso sits nicely at the 24 spot. At number 23, it's another B&M hypercoaster, Candemonium from Hersheypark. When I think about B&M hypers, the word that comes to my mind is usually smooth, which I think Candemonium captures maybe the best out of all of them. Yes, it still has great airtime, but riding Candemonium is like riding on a cloud. Despite being over 200 feet tall, Candemonium is a great intro coaster for younger enthusiasts because of how simultaneously exhilarating and graceful it is. Yes, the trims hit too hard, and if it weren't for that, it would be much higher on my list, but I still think Candemonium is a great ride with a fun theme that does exactly what it needs to do: deliver remarkable airtime and feel great while doing it. Number 22, yes, another hyper, Nitro, found at Six Flags Great Adventure. Why is Nitro one of my favorites? The layout. Not all layouts are built equally, and I think Nitro has the most varied, most entertaining, and most unexpected layout you can have on a hyper. A night ride on Nitro is one of my most recommended coaster experiences because flying in and out of your seat through all of its monstrous hills and turns is a truly incomparable adventure. Moving on to number 21, it's Orion, a B&M Giga coaster at Kings Island. Notice how I said Nitro was a hyper coaster? Orion is a Giga coaster, period. And not only that, it's a pretty dang good one too. A lot of people may argue that Diamondback is the stronger B&M at Kings Island, and I'm here to say they're wrong. The drop on Orion is incredible, face-melting and perfectly intense, followed by a fun layout that has one of my favorite new elements, the appropriately named Orion's Belt. While not a knock your socks off Giga in its own category of Gigas, we're still talking about a pretty frickin' tall coaster here, and that initial drop alone is insane enough to earn a spot on this list. Staying in Kings Island at number 20, we have Mystic Timbers, a wooden coaster from Great Coasters International. Mystic Timbers has two things working against it: its short length and all the meme-worthy crap surrounding the shed. Put those two things aside, and this is an elite coaster. Mystic Timbers whips you around its layout like a rag doll, promising to eject you from your seat multiple times and coming very close to delivering on that promise. I personally love wooden coasters, something you'll probably recognize by the end of this list, and Mystic Timbers is one of the best of them. On to something a little different. At number 19, it's Expedition Everest at Disney's Animal Kingdom. This is my favorite themed coaster in the world. Boom, I said it. Say what you will about Hagrid's or Velocicoaster or Incredible Hulk or any of the other heavily themed coasters out there, but Expedition Everest is a standalone IP, an original story that unequivocally transports you, the rider, into the mysterious peaks of Nepal. It's a coaster full of surprises, full of both narrative and literal twists and turns, and by the end of it you feel as if your journey up the mountain wasn't just a load of marketing BS, it was real. It's an iconic landmark of the park and a phenomenal ride that, while not as forceful as pretty much anything else on this list, is infinitely as re-rideable. Moving on to number 18, it's the Raven, a wooden CCI at Holiday World. In 2021, the Raven absolutely skyrocketed up my rankings. Before then, I always saw it as the least exciting coaster at Holiday World, but 2021 Raven really surprised me. It has a great intensity and pace throughout its layout, marked by the wonderful touch of that haunting bell toll as you leave the station. And its final drop is one of the best layout surprises I've had on a coaster. It really hits you when you least expect it, especially at night. Best of all, I found the Raven to be nice and smooth, not like B&M smooth, but smooth enough as to not take away from the experience. The fact that it's this high on my list kinda surprises me too, but nevertheless, the Raven is an outstanding ride that deserves its top 25 spot. At number 17, it's Millenium Force, an Intamin Giga Coaster at Cedar Point. Look, Millenium Force is fantastic. It's the first Giga Coaster, so it has history going for it. Its drop is unreal with incredible views at the top. It is a complete and utter joy to ride, and that's exactly why it's on this list. A lot of people may put it higher on their personal ranking, but for me, number 17 seems about right. It's a ride that I enjoyed the heck out of riding. It just didn't wow me the same way it has managed to wow others, and that's okay. It doesn't take anything away from it because Millie is inarguably one of the most iconic and brilliant coasters to have ever been built, which lands it at 17 on my list. Number 16, Montu, a B&M invert at Busch Gardens, Tampa. Montu is quite rightfully known as one of the strongest inverts ever built, with a killer terrain conforming layout and seriously intense inversions. Montu was actually, fun fact, the first B&M invert I ever rode, meaning I have a strong personal connection to this coaster as well. There's really not much more I can say about Montu. Go watch a POV. It's a special coaster and my second favorite B&M invert. Which brings me to my number 1 invert at the number 15 spot, Raptor, found at Cedar Point. Raptor has the word classic written all over it. Its lime green color scheme screams aggressive, say that 5 times fast, and Raptor lives up to its Jurassic name with punishing inversions that show no mercy throughout its layout. It is a great looking coaster with a fun layout that, while not wildly outside the tried and true B&M template, is varied and strong enough to make it my favorite. Staying in Cedar Point and moving on to my number 14, it's Maverick, an Intamin Blitz. Maverick is another coaster that a lot of people have ranked a lot higher, and although it wasn't quite as impressive to me when I rode it, this ride is still absolutely bananas. Riding Maverick is, as its name and logo imply, akin to riding a galloping bronco. Maverick is relentless, a non-stop affair of twists, turns, and launches coming one after another in rapid succession. This is a coaster I feel like I definitely need more rides on to fully appreciate, but for now it sits comfortably as my number 14. For number 13, Twisted Cyclone, an RMC hybrid at Six Flags over Georgia. Twisted Cyclone is one of the smallest and shortest RMC hybrids, but I was really surprised by this thing. For a coaster with a footprint this small and a layout this condensed, Twisted Cyclone packs a punch. The drop on this is phenomenal, only to be followed by some great elements taken at speed. One of the advantages of having a short coaster like this is that the pacing does not let up, and even though I wish it were longer, this is a ride that makes me immediately get back in line every time I get off, which I think is a sign of both its quality and its re-rideability. On to number 12, Magnum XL 200, an aerodynamics hypercoaster at Cedar Point. Magnum is like coaster royalty in my book. This is the classic among classics. It broke records on its debut, but unlike some other historic coasters, Magnum still slaps. It's not about how great it was during its time or how it used to be good. It's still good. Heck, it's amazing. The Triangle Hills and the tunnel on the back half of this ride will bruise your thighs, no doubt. But in my mind, it's hard to find greater ejector airtime basically anywhere else in the world, with a few exceptions. It's the perfect amount of janky, a weird, wonderful, eclectic relic that still holds its ground among its neighboring titans. And that's why it's my number 12. Number 11, and the last coaster just outside my top 10, Storm Chaser, an RMC hybrid at Kentucky Kingdom. Storm Chaser starts off with a barrel roll drop that is just one of my favorite things ever. Coupled with a beautiful 0G roll, Storm Chaser just starts out really, really strong. And then it doesn't stop there. It keeps the intensity up and keeps you out of your seat until almost the very end. Unlike Twisted Cyclone, Storm Chaser does sort of peter out at the end, but if its one fault is converting every little last bit of its energy into its killer inversions and speed hills and trick track double ups or whatever that thing's called, I will take it any day. Okay, we're heading into my top 10 now. Every coaster up here is world class, and I'll admit it was really hard to rank these sequentially, but hey, that's what rankings require, so let's do it. Number 10, The Beast, a Philadelphia toboggan coaster's Woody at Kings Island. The Beast is unique in that it's a true love it or hate it kind of coaster, and me, I love it. I love it to death. Critics of the Beast will say it doesn't do anything, which I guess is technically sort of true, but the Beast goes to show that a coaster doesn't need 7+ inversions to be great. It just has to be fun. And the Beast is fun, really fun. At night, the Beast is a different beast entirely, transporting you to a forested land of tunnels and big-ass left turns, and it is beautiful. The Beast is a fantastic ride, and it required itself to be in my top 10. Moving on to number 9, it's The Legend, a CCI wooden coaster at Holiday World. Much like the Raven, the Legend also skyrocketed up my rankings this year. I've always loved the Legend, a coaster with arguably the best laterals in the world, but in the past I've always thought of it as a little bit of a one-trick pony. However, now I see the Legend as a much more complete ride, filled with, yes, amazing laterals, but also some spectacular airtime and a killer first drop. Add to that a ride running smoother than ever, and the Legend comes into focus as an elite Woody deserving of a spot at number 9. At number 8, it's Mako, a B&M hypercoaster at SeaWorld Orlando. Why is this hyper ranked so much higher than all the other hypers on this list? Well, because it's the best. Mako has the best floater air of any coasters I've had the pleasure of riding. It is a gorgeous ride that manages to feel more like a flying coaster than its neighbor / actual flying coaster, Manta, mostly because you are actively suspended in the air above your seat for at least 70% of Mako's layout. That's how strong this airtime is. It's my favorite hypercoaster by a mile, and that's why it's number 8. Heading down to San Antonio for number 7, it's Iron Rattler, an RMC hybrid located at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. I think Iron Rattler was my first top-tier RMC, meaning that it was the first RMC I rode that quite literally took my breath away. All the things people say about this coaster are true. The drop is great, the inversions are massive, the dive off the quarry wall is pure insanity, and the setting is picture perfect. RMC really didn't have to go this hard when they made Iron Rattler, but they did, and it continues to stand as one of the absolute best coasters in the country. Number 6, the first Stratocoaster on this list, Top Thrill Dragster, an Intamin accelerator at Cedar Point. Intamin accelerators are one-trick ponies, no doubt, but the difference here is it's just a really frickin' good trick. Top Thrill Dragster is like an injection of epinephrine straight into your brainstem. I don't even know if it would work, but that's what it feels like. It activates part of your fight or flight response that you didn't even know were there. It sends your face muscles back in time as you rocket up to the top of the top hat, only to come crashing down with a smile so large it comes off creepy. That is the power of Top Thrill Dragster. I only hope for Cedar Fair and fans of this coaster that the issues surrounding the unfortunate guest injury incident earlier this year are sorted out, so this ride can continue to operate with great thrill and safety for all. On to number 5, top 5, the otherworldly elite category. It's El Toro, an Intamin prefabricated wooden coaster at Six Flags Great Adventure. El Toro makes me think of one word and one word only: brutal. Brutal in the best way, because if Maverick is riding a galloping horse, El Toro is riding a bull hopped up on a mixture of speed and male growth hormone. El Toro is a wooden coaster with a complete arsenal of tricks up its sleeve. Its airtime, mostly ejector, is enough to make you lose your voice after a single lap. It's by no means a starter coaster or anything like that. This coaster is not for the faint of heart. In my opinion, its intensity rivals and surpasses its neighbor, King the Ka, the tallest coaster in the world. And if that is an endorsement of El Toro's merits, I don't know what is. At number 4, we travel to Seoul, South Korea to meet El Toro's brother, T-Express, another Intamin prefab found at Everland. T-Express is kind of a strange ride. It definitely has some bizarre pacing, and it might not flow as well as El Toro, but when T-Express gets going, it's an experience like no other. The drop on T-Express legit feels like a plummet into death. The screams just leave your body involuntarily. And from there, you get to the hills. Forget just one ejector death hill on a coaster like Zip and Pippin. T-Express features multiple ejector death hills that are essentially glorified meat tenderizers, threatening to stretch your vertebrae in a way both alarming and exhilarating. It's a one-of-a-kind coaster that has to be ridden to be believed, which lands it at number 4. Moving on to number 3, it's Skyrush, an Intamin wing coaster at Hersheypark. Skyrush is without a doubt the most aggressive coaster I've ever ridden. I've talked about this ride quite a bit at length in my Hersheypark Coasters Ranked video, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but I'll leave it at this. Skyrush is one of the most misunderstood coasters in the world. It's not about airtime. It's not about inversions. It's about intensity. It's about feeling out of control, not through disorienting spins or flips, but by sheer force. And at that, it is unparalleled. On to number 2, Steel Vengeance, an RMC hybrid at Cedar Point. With Steel Vengeance, I really would call it the RMC hybrid, because as of 2021, Steel Vengeance still seems to be the best RMC in the world. I was kind of late to the party riding Steel Vengeance, and before I got my first ride, I was worried that all of the endless hype would turn it into a disappointment. Well, even with all of that hype, even with so many people calling it their absolute favorite coaster of all time, I still found it to live up to my expectations. Steel Vengeance is perfectly paced, perfectly executed amusement, and for me, sets the bar for what a modern masterpiece of coaster engineering can and should be, meaning it rightfully sits at number 2. And finally, my number 1 coaster in the world as of 2021, the Voyage, a Gravity Group wooden coaster at Holiday World. I'll be honest, after my 4th back row ride on Steel Vengeance, I had it ranked above the Voyage. I thought there was no way a trimless Voyage ride would be able to supplant Steel Vengeance. But after one ride on a trimless Voyage during Hollywood Nights, I was proven wrong. The Voyage is a coaster that really has it all. It's relentless, with some of my favorite coaster moments of all time. That triple down in the tunnel is the gift that keeps on giving. Merry Christmas. It doesn't matter how many times I ride it, it gets me every single time. The back half of this coaster is another masterpiece. It puts your body through the absolute gamut of forces and gets the maximum return for it. The Voyage is so long, so satisfying that it makes even a 2-hour wait worth it. Trimless Nighttime Voyage, in my opinion, is the best coaster experience in the world, and something every enthusiast should strive to get at some point in their lives. And all of that is what makes the Voyage my undisputed number 1. And there's my list. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear what your guys' lists are and what you think of mine. And of course, if you liked this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. I've been Adam with Theme Park Blitz, and I'll see you in our next video.